Hello everyone, welcome to the Pushing Hustle podcast. This is the host Ash. Some journey aren't defined by finish line. They're defined by the moment when things fall apart and you still choose to move forward. Today's conversation is about that space, the quiet miles, the DNF, the races that didn't go as planned. My guests stood on podiums, faced brutal setbacks, and shown up again with clarity and purpose. From strong results to hard calls in the mountain. This story is about listening to your body, trusting your instincts, and understanding that stopping isn't quitting. We talk about mindset, nutrition, training, racing for charity, and what it really takes to keep going when things get dark. This one is honest, raw, and deeply human. So let's get right into it, and please let me introduce our guest today. Here's Charlotte. Charlotte, welcome to the podcast, and it's such a nice to have you here. And then I know we've been going back and forth to get this happen. So, yeah, thank you for your time and welcome.
No, it's lovely to finally manage to be here, and I'm surprised that I've got enough Wi-Fi. But hey, African Wi-Fi apparently is great, so...
Before we start, I know there have been a lot of confusion about having two people with the same name. So, can you give a quick introduction about who you are?
Yeah, so I'm the other ultra-running Charlotte Fisher. There are two of us. We're both... we are actually in touch, which is quite funny, because we get confused all the time, because we're the same age, we look very similar, we have similar kind of lifestyles, and we both run ultra marathons and do sort of similar races. And so whenever other Charlotte Fisher races, I get a load of messages saying well done, and whenever I race, she gets a load of messages saying well done. So there are two of us. Before we get back to your journey, when all of this happened to you, were you a runner from when you were a little kid, or is this something that happened like for most of us when you just do a 5K, 10K, and then that progression towards running the ultramarathon? Yeah, so I didn't grow up running. A lot of ultra, I think maybe not a lot, but like a lot of club runners, like the people that do those fast 5K races and like track meets and things like that, I am absolutely not one of those runners. I'm completely okay with the fact that I'm like quite a mediocre runner in terms of normal people, or in terms of like the running community. My 5 and 10K PBs aren't anything particularly impressive. I grew up in gymnastics and diving, which is very different to running, because you might run up a tumble track, which is 20 meters long, and do a vault, or you might run to the end of a diving board. And I just didn't grow up doing sports that required cardiovascular fitness. I grew up doing sports that required strength and power, and I was a proper... my sisters used to call me Thunder Thighs, because I was like... I had like tree trunks of legs, because I was really powerful and really strong. Like I could do a somersault on the floor, but I wouldn't have been able to run a 5K. And then when I was 15, I don't know if you ever had to do this. You know when you do work experience at school, so they send you off to go and have a job for a week and you don't get paid for it and you just have a week off school. Like most people go sweep up hair in the hairdressers or something like that. My placement fell through at the last minute. As in, I think it was the week before work experience week started. And I was 15 and they went, right, well, we have a space for you on the army residential. And I went, oh, no. But I didn't have time to organise anything else, so I ended up going on the army residential. And I absolutely trashed everybody at sit-ups, to the point of, like, I smoked their PTIs as well, who are their physical training instructors, who didn't believe that I'd done 92 sit-ups in 2 minutes. So they made me do it again, and I did 93. And they were like, yeah, fair play. And then I did, like, reasonably well on press-ups, like, for a girl. I think there was, like, 4 girls, and I trashed all the other girls and, like, did reasonably well in comparison to the boys, and absolutely bombed on the 1.5-mile run. So that's one of the old army fitness tests, was a 1.5-mile run in a set amount of time. I think I did it in, like, 13 minutes or something like that, which isn't particularly quick. And I hated the fact that I hadn't won the 1.5 mile. So when I got home from work experience, I was like, right, that's it, I'm going to start running. And I did. And that was the start of my running journey. And I literally my dad didn't used to let me go out running. So I had to run. I grew up on a garden centre. And the garden centre is designed in a loop. And we worked out that 7 laps of the garden centre was a mile. So I used to do about 11, 12 laps of the garden centre, and that was about 1.5 miles. And I'd do it with our dogs. So our dogs would trot round and follow me. And I'd go walk the dogs by just running laps of the nursery. And that was how I got into running. And it sounds mental looking at it like that. Like, I didn't have any training plan. I just used to go and run laps. And it was on a hill. So you had to run up the hill, a little bit of flat, run down the hill, a little bit of flat, up the hill, a little bit of flat. And do you know what? It got me reasonably fit relatively quickly. And I remember the first day that I decided I was going to do 70 laps. No, I didn't do 70 laps. I did a 10K, which would have been, maths has abandoned my brain, but it would have been 6 7. But I did about 43, 44 laps of the nursery, which I just ran around in circles for like an hour. And I think it probably took me about an hour. And I was like, right, I've done a 10K. And then I entered a road 10K. And it was really hot and it was awful. And I went, I don't like that. And I just kind of kept doing my little 1.5 mile runs and stuff like that. And I feel like this is how it always starts with these kind of things. But whatever project it is, you do a little bit and then you go, oh, that was okay. And then you do a bit more and you go, oh, that was okay. And you do a bit more and you get fitter and you get better. And this is what I think a lot of people, when people start like a marathon training program and they decide to go from 0 to marathon in 3 months, and they go, why did I hate that so much? And it's because you don't have that foundation of having spent 2 to 3 years running laps of your parents' garden centre, just kind of getting that baseline fitness. And that's kind of where it all progressed from, was that I just sort of gradually got longer and gradually did more. And when I went off to university, I basically did that for like 4 or 5 years. And then when I went off to university, I accidentally lost loads of weight. And I know that's the exact opposite to what loads of people do when they go to university. I was working in kitchens, so I took a year out after I finished my A-levels, and I went to college and I did a diploma type thing in bakery and patisserie because I didn't know what I wanted to do. And then once I'd done that, I realised that I loved food science, I loved all that kind of foodie stuff. And I went on to do a degree in nutrition in Manchester. But I decided that I was going to work while I was there. And kitchen jobs, if anyone's ever done one, you can have a part-time kitchen job that is more hours than most people's full-time working week. So a full-time working week is 37, 38 hours, something like that. I would quite easily do 60 hours a week working over 4, maybe 5 shifts. I would my short week was probably about 40 hours, and that was quite a standard thing. So I was studying a degree, training a lot because I had time to train a lot because I was a student, and you have so much free time when you're a student, and was working a lot, so I just didn't have time to eat anything. So I accidentally lost a load of weight, and it accidentally made me way faster at running because I'd gone from probably I was never big. I was probably 62, 63 kilos, down to a very tiny, very underweight, 49, 50 kilos, which was, it was borderline dangerous. But I got better at running, and it kind of just extrapolated from there. Went on to do my master's degree and joined the triathlon club when I went to do my master's at Loughborough, which was an absolute baptism of fire. Really enjoyed it. Then entered the world of work and was like, I'm going to have so much spare money and so much spare time to do triathlons. And it did not work like that at all. I had no spare money and no spare time. So I had to kind of put triathlon on the back burner. And then ended up, sorry, this is becoming such a rampage about my entire life, but I have quite a weird roundabout journey into running and how I got from running laps of the nursery to running ultramarathons, because it's quite a big difference. But I'm a bit of an all or nothing person. So I entered the workforce and got a graduate job out of my master's degree, and it's the worst thing I ever did in my entire life. And there's some legal ramifications of me talking about what actually went on, so I'll keep the details a little bit sparse. But I had a really bad time. And the day after having had a really, really bad time, I entered my first ultramarathon because I was my mental health was suffering so much. And I think this is how a lot of people get into ultramarathons. My mental health was at rock bottom, and I needed something that hurt more than my brain did. And I was like, how do I make my body hurt more than my brain does, so I forget about how much my brain hurts and like how much my head hurts? And the obvious answer to that was ultramarathons. So I entered Race to the Stones, and I was meant to do my first. That must have been 2019. I entered it on the day that people were racing it in 2019, so I had a year to train for it. And I was meant to race it in 2020, and then obviously COVID happened, so everything was just cancelled, because I'd had another few ultramarathons in mind that I wanted to race, like 2020, 2021. But obviously everything was cancelled. So I ended up deferring my entry to 2021. And I ran my first ultramarathon in 2021. Fell down a rabbit hole at 77k, absolutely ruined all of the ligaments in my ankle. And it was just like swollen. And you know when, I don't know if you've ever damaged soft tissue and it's just bruised instantly. It just turns black. And you get like a massive egg on the side of your ankle. And that happens. And I went, I'll be fine, and got to the end. So I was on for probably about a 12 and a half hour 100k as my first one, which I look back now and I realise is like pretty flipping quick. Like that's a very respectable 100k time, especially for your first one. And it ended up taking me 14 hours 40 because I had to limp hobble walk the last 23 kilometres. And it's the most pain I've ever been in. So by that logic, I actually achieved the goal of making my body hurt more than my brain did, and the rest is history.
I think 13 minutes is not bad for 1.5 mile. That is pretty respectable time. I mean, it may not be the fastest, but still it is 8.5 minutes, around 9 minutes time. So I think I would say that is pretty quick when you do the P.
Oh yeah, I look back at it now and I'm like, oh, that actually wasn't too bad for like a 15-year-old girl who'd never run in her entire life. It wasn't awful. It was just the fact that the boys had all gone so much faster than me, and I didn't like it because I'm too competitive for my own good.
Yeah, I mean that makes sense, and you at that moment you just probably wanted it to be, and we are so critical of ourselves, and our accomplishments. It's just like, oh God, we are not good, and things like that. But that is a respectable time, and I didn't know 92 sit-ups in 2 minutes is a heck. That is a lot. How much can you do now?
I did. So I don't know if you know this. I did a little TV show on Channel 4 called SAS Who Dares Wins in 2022. 2022. Recorded that, which is basically where they take 20 civilians and they put them through like a simulation of UK Special Forces selection. And as part of that, we had to do some of those tests again. We didn't do the 1.5 mile, but we did a bleep test. And you had to get to level 10.1. So for anybody that knows a bleep test, like it's reasonably speedy. You've got to be pretty fit to get there. And then we had to do the 2-minute sit-ups, 2-minute press-ups. And I know I did. I know I was getting like looks as I told people how many I'd got. But I can't remember exactly what it was. And I wish I could remember. But I think it was like in the 80s, and I kind of remember the guy who was recording it looking at me like, you don't look like you should be able to do that, because I am quite like just a small skinny blonde little white girl who doesn't look like she should be able to do that many sit-ups. But yeah, I'd love to just test it now, get someone to hold my feet and go for it and see what happens.
That is impressive, and yeah, your journey is quite fascinating because you ran around the gardens to parents to running the ultras, and that's quite a transition. I mean, yeah, we all have our reasons like why you want to do, and looks like you had yours to go and run that first ultras. And if you look back now, that 15-year-old girl who was pissed off that she did 1.5 miles at like 13 minutes, do you think she would be able to recognize that you would be running ultramarathons now?
Oh, if you told me when I was 15, I can't believe that was 15 years ago. But if you told me when I was 15 that I'd run an ultramarathon, I would have laughed. Like, I don't think it's something that I ever thought I was capable of. But this is something I come up with a lot of people who go, I just don't know how you do it. And I'm like, you just keep going. That's honestly how you do it. And like, how do you run 100 kilometers? And I'm like, you do the first kilometer and then you do another one. and then you do another one, and then you start getting tired, so you go, can I run 20 more steps? And you run 20 more steps, and you go, oh, that wasn't too bad, I think I can run 20 more steps. So you just run another 20 steps. And I spend a lot of my ultramarathons like counting to 20 or 50 or 100, and then going, I run 100 steps, and then if I'm tired I'll walk for 20. And I think people forget that like you run an ultramarathon one step at a time, and if you think too far ahead, you kind of psych yourself out a bit. But people have it in them, they just don't think they do. Like, I never thought I'd have it in me, and here I am.
I did the same thing though. I did 30 steps and then 50 steps and then 15 steps walking. So, I mean, we gotta do what works, Sometimes we may not be able to run 500 steps, but 30 steps will do it for time being. So you just gotta keep moving and showing yourself up. So, looks like you did the same thing too. And you look back at your ultra, the first time you did it in 2021, what is the biggest lesson? What is the biggest lesson that you learned from that, regardless of your screwed up?
Oh, there was one moment where it was quite early on, and something very nearly went wrong. Make sure you really do go to the bathroom before you start. I was coming up on the so I ran straight through the first checkpoint because it was only like 9k in, and I was like, I've got plenty of water, I've got plenty of food, I'm fine, I'm just going to keep going through it. And then the second checkpoint was, I think it was about 22 kilometres in, and at 20 kilometres my body was like, you need to go. And I was like, So the big lesson here is carry baby wipes. The slightly awkward thing is I probably would have answered nature's call had we not been in the middle of a golf course with like loads of people out playing golf on a Saturday morning, and I was like, I don't know what to do. So yes, clench and pray is a good lesson for running ultramarathons. Just get to the bathroom. that was a huge one that I learned very, very early on. Imodium is a wonderful, wonderful tool that you can use. And I suppose other things that I've learned about ultra running is it's not a case of necessarily how fast you go. It's not like normal running. And I think people go like, oh yeah, so I ran a road half marathon, especially trail ultramarathons. If people go, oh yeah, I ran a road half marathon in like sub 2 hours, and therefore I think I could run 100k in this. It is two completely different sports. It's like comparing, it's like being like, oh yeah, well, I can sprint 100 meters, so like a marathon I should just do 100 meters times however many that is in a marathon. And it's so different. Like, they are entirely different sports, especially once you start getting into like trails and mountains and fells and like different terrains and sand and stuff like that. Like, you kind of have to forget everything that you know about road running, because trail running is a completely different kettle of fish altogether. And the way that you complete ultras is that you just keep moving. Like, it really doesn't matter whether you're running, whether you're walking. It's just my one mantra when I'm ultra running. And even when I'm out training, there'll be times when I'm like, oh, I'm tired. And I might be 5k in, I might be 10k in, I might be 30k into a training run. And it doesn't matter if I want to stop. Like, it's okay to stop and it's okay to walk as long as you keep moving. And that's all I'll repeat to myself, especially in this race that I've got coming up, because I really don't know what it's going to be like. It's my first time racing in the desert. It's the first time racing in really hot conditions. It's the first time racing like on sand. So it is just going to be a case of just keep moving. Like, keep moving. And if you keep moving for long enough, eventually you will run out of race to do, and you'll get to the finish line. And it was that first ultramarathon, the thing that I had in the back of my mind was the very worst case scenario is that you walk the entire thing and that'll take you 24 hours. And I was like, that's not that bad. Like, I could probably do that. And I actually had a client who was racing at the time, so I used to work, and I actually used my nutrition degree for a while, worked as a nutrition consultant, and I had a client who was racing, who was a client who had spina bifida. And I don't know if you know what spina bifida is, but it's a spinal condition. I think the term is congenital. Basically, it's almost like a birth defect, where there's something wrong with your spine and it doesn't work properly. And people with spina bifida generally have like a big problem with mobility. And anyway, this guy that I'd been working with had spina bifida and was doing the same race as me, and his plan was to walk it. And I was like, if it all goes wrong, just go find Simon and walk with him. Like, that's the very worst case scenario is that you're going to have a really nice time going on a really nice hike, and you're just having like a big day out with lots of snacks, with some fun people and some beautiful scenery. And that's the biggest thing that I've learned, I think, about ultras is like, just keep moving. The worst case scenario isn't that bad. It's really not.
Forward is progress, and as long as we're making that progress, I think that makes a huge difference. And I am a road marathon by trade. I only did one ultra so far.
Yeah.
And I know
See, I've
like
never run
this.
a road marathon.
Yeah, it is. I DNF Berlin Marathon because
Yeah.
I was sick leading to it, and then at 21 kilometers I started feeling dizzy, and I think I'm gonna fall. But I sat and then I ran a little bit more. But at 24 kilometers I saw train station, and I'm like, okay, that is it. I cannot risk myself getting injured or hurt, because if I fall and if I cut myself, then it's not worth it. So I was like, okay, peace, choose. And then it's hard, like running a. When I did my first ultra, it was the training was so different than the road marathon, because all I cared about was time on feet. So
Yeah.
my runs were slower. I enjoyed it more, and
Yeah.
compared to the road marathon, it's just like you have to hit the split, and that kind of got boring. And I was like, okay, I don't love this feeling, because I don't want to feel it like a job, because when you are so competitive and you want to run faster, you obviously have to do so much work. I was running 16 kilometers every Monday around 4:30 to 5 pace, and that was exhausting. It was so demanding, and yeah, I want to run fast, but I also want to enjoy this, and that training blog just showed me that there is more to running than just chasing split. So I my training plan for my ultra was like totally different than what I used to do the marathon. I never did speed training because it was my first one, so I just wanted to run and keep the time on feet thing going on. And then, my God, 1,000 meter of elevation, like I would never forget this, because that is a lot.
Yeah, so I used to think that 1,000 meters of elevation was quite a lot, and then I raced the Beacons Way, and it was like 4,000 meters of elevation, and then I raced Snowdon, and I think it was the same as that over half the distance, and it's brutal. But like,
Yeah.
I think people that say they don't like running have never tried running like ultra runners run, and they've never tried like just going out with some snacks and some water and just covering distance and getting some time on their feet and running whatever's runnable, hiking whatever isn't runnable, stopping when they need. It's a beautiful sport, I think, and for me it's so much more enjoyable. And people keep going, oh, will you run a road marathon? I'm like, probably not. I've just got no urge to do it. Like, but you run ultra marathons. It's like, yeah, but it's so different. It's so different running road marathons compared to even the same distance over a trail. Give me the trail any day with a mountain in the middle of it. I'm all over it.
The experience was so much different. And I don't want to run marathons anymore, road marathons, but I need to find Berlin one more time. So just to finish it, because I don't want to
Yeah.
finish that
Close
Berlin
that
marathon on a
chapter.
DNF. Yeah, so I think I'm gonna do it
Yeah.
one more time, but I'm done with chasing splits, because now I enjoy this feeling where in my auto training block I never looked my watch once, like what does one split. So that felt really good, and I enjoyed the running aspect of running, and then the walking aspect, because you don't really care. There is a hill, I'm just gonna walk it. So that really made it nicer. And when we do this thing, right, when we run so much of a longer distance, there is so many highs and lows. Like we go through so much of our emotions. And going back to your race 2021, your first one, bruised ankles with the ligament torn, big blue thing on your thing, most of us would quit, and we want to quit, but we are so stubborn. What was going through your moment at the time when you saw that big thing on your?
Mostly that I realised I'd put my car keys in my finish line bag. So I was like, well, I have to get there one way or the other, otherwise I can't get my finish line bag. And it was a blessing in disguise, because so it was also, I don't know if you experienced this with ultra racing, but I was like, no one's coming to save me. No one's coming to rescue me. I went on my own, so I didn't have a support crew. I wasn't Manny only thing. And one of the things that was kind of in their, like, I don't want to say like race contract, but like part of their terms and conditions is that if you drop out, you have to get yourself back to the finish line. And I was in the middle of Salisbury Plain when this happened. And I was like, well, it's 20 kilometres to the next village, where I've then got to find a taxi, or like find some way of getting back to the finish line or whatever. I was like, or I can just keep going to the end, and it's 23 kilometres. And I was like, well, might as well just keep going to the end. And so actually not having the option to really drop out was a very big motivational factor there. And yeah, I was like, well, I've got to get to the end anyway because my bag's there, so here I go. And I knew that I could hike it in like 4 hours, so which isn't the end of the world. I think if I'd done that at 20k, it would have been a very different story, and I'd have had to have like much more of a word with myself. And I suppose that kind of did happen in Snowdonia this year, is that I had to make a bit of a call earlier on than I would have liked to. But yeah, like you don't necessarily always have the choice. If you're in a bit of a remote landscape, you sort of have to keep going. And it's one of the reasons why I quite like the more remote ultras, because you have to get yourself back. And it's one of the reasons why I like doing big long training runs, because it trains you in the mental strength of like, right, your car is 30 kilometres in that direction. You've got to do it now. And accidents always happen at about the halfway point, when you've got to do exactly the same again as to what you've just done. It's a mental struggle, but it also isn't, because you just sort of have to, like, you've got to do it. Like, you've got to just crack on and do it.
It is so funny, because same thing happened to me too when I did my first ultra, and it was so hard, right? In Berlin, there are not a lot of hills, and the hills I thought were hills were not really hills. So the trail had like 3-4 kilometers or upward, like a hill, and like going up to 150 meters of elevation, and then my whole run would be around 250 when I did like 20-30k. So that first thing was, and that was already hard. So my first 5k, and everybody was local, they are used to running the trail, and I traveled 7 hours to go do this race. And after I reached on the top, and there was a downhill, and being this marathon mindset, I was like, I'm gonna catch people that are going in front of me. So I ran so fast, it was the next 16 kilometers I ran super fast, like a marathon. I ran, and then came the toughest part of the course, where it was like 14-16% of elevation. Like the incline was so horrible, and it was 3 kilometers. Everybody was walking, and I was like, I sat there in the middle, and I said, this is bullshit, because it is not ending. And then by the time I was at that section, it was 30 kilometers, and then I had no way to finish it, because I have to keep going forward. And when I reached the top and I was coming downhill, all the mud were loose, and my leg were not moving on, and I just couldn't move downhill anymore. So I was like, I cannot, because there is no, like you said, there is nobody coming to get me. So I just had to keep going on, and I started doing this. Okay, I'm gonna run 30 steps at a time, and that's what I did. 30 steps running, 15 steps walking, and then I was able to finish it. And it's just funny, like, I think if there was a way for me to get in, then I probably would not have finished the race. But
when you don't have a choice, that's it, you're doing it.
Yeah. But
I think those tactics are gonna happen. Sorry, carry on.
Yeah, no, I finished it. I'm happy that I was able to finish my first ultra, and then took me 7 hours, 15 minutes or something like that. But I got it, my first one, so I'm happy that I was able to finish it.
You got there. And whenever people go, oh, what's your 100k time? You can't go, oh yeah, my 100k time is this, because it depends on which ultra you're doing. So like my 100k time for Race to the Stones was 14 hours 40 with a moderately broken ankle. Like, it would have been like 12 and a half hours without that. But my 100k time for the Brecon Beacons was 18 hours. And people are like, well, why did it take you 18 hours if it took you 12 and if it took you like that's like 6 hours more? And it's like, you haven't run in the Brecon Beacons.
Yeah.
It's
tougher.
brutal.
Yes.
I decided I did very similar in the Brecon Beacons. So I raced the Beacons Way last year. I was meant to run a Brecon Beacons Ultra in 2023 and actually didn't end up doing it because I got really ill in like the 3 months up to the race, and I think for the 3 weeks before the race I basically hadn't kept a meal down, and I was like, there's no way in hell I can do a 55-kilometre ultramarathon over the mountains like this. I had to pull out, which was really frustrating because I'd done like a lot of training in the run up to it, but it was fine. And then went back to do a 100k version in 2024. I keep forgetting what year we're in. I can't believe we're at the end of 2025 already. But did a 100k version and had the most horrendous run into it because it was also when I'd had like a massive change around in my business. I'd completely changed the way I was working. I was working so much. The longest run I'd done was about 13k. And then I went out one day and did a 35 kilometre over all like the moorland and the hills and stuff that are around me, because I'm very lucky in that I'm kind of at the foot of the Yorkshire Dales, like North Yorkshire kind of way. And there's so much hill, there's so much moorland. You can't not hit a hill if you live where I live. You have to go up hills if you want to run. And I did one 35 kilometre run and it was the hottest day of the year. It was about 32 degrees. And I was like, right, well, it can't get any worse than that. And it was horrible. And I like cried my way through the whole thing. And I was like, cool, I think I'm ready. I'd done one long run and that was it. And ended up coming second in the race. And I think it was because everything up to that point had been so hard. And I just pushed and pushed and pushed. And my mantra in that race was like, just keep moving as fast as possible, even if as fast as possible means crawling. And I think just that thing of like, just keep going, just keep going, just keep going really, really worked. But I did something similar in that, so you go up the first mountain, which is Penafan, or Pennyfan if you're English. My Welsh friends always tell me off for calling it Pennyfan. It's Penafan. And then you run down to, there's this pub called the Story Arms. So you run down to the Story Arms and it's like the short way up the mountain. So there's a lot of like tourists going up there, a lot of people in, there's always someone in flip-flops going up a mountain, like the people that are wearing flip-flops and like inappropriate footwear to go up it, they all go up that route. So I was flying down, basically trying not to take out tourists with me on the way. And people being like, oh my God, you're nearly at the finish line. And I was like, oh, I'm not nearly at the finish line. I've got 80 kilometres left to go. But I did that, overtook quite a lot of people, got to the checkpoint at the bottom of that hill, and they were like, you're the second lady. And I was like, oh my goodness. And then was like, right, well, I'm not stopping at this checkpoint because I'm not letting anyone catch me. And then you leg it across the road and head north, east, south, west into the Carmarthen Fans. And I felt that downhill for the rest of the race. And that was a big lesson learned about ultra running, is like, don't go too hard down the first hill because it's the downhills that really, really kill your quads. And oh my gosh, I knew about that about 10 hours later, when I was absolutely suffering and everything was cramping up. But again, similar thing. I was like, I went through a place called Bethlehem and I was like, there's a place called Bethlehem in Wales, don't know why. I went through a place called Bethlehem and I was like, this feels like a religious experience. It was probably about 1 in the morning, 1:30 in the morning. It was dark, I was the only person around, and I was like, well, like something spiritual is guiding me. I'm in Bethlehem, like I've got to keep going, can't DNF now. It's you have some weird thoughts when you're that deep into a race and everything hurts and everything's cramping, but you have to just lean into it and sort of embrace it and go like, this hurts, but I'm going to keep going anyway. Like I can do it.
I mean, when you do the race and then you finish, there is this happiness, right? So you were just describing like, because some part of us wants it to finish because we've been putting so much time into it. And then, like you were just explaining about the race, the beacon, that you were not able to do it, and then how distraught you are. So how do you handle DNFs, like the Snowdonia 100 meter?
Snowdonia.
Yeah.
It was my first DNF and it stung, like it really hurt. But I really wasn't very well the week before, so I raced on the Saturday. The previous Friday, not even that, I think it was the previous Monday, so maybe like 6-7 days before the race, I spent a full 48 hours in bed, pretty much unable to, when you roll over and go dizzy, like basically doing that, feeling like I was going to throw up everything I ate, like not being able to eat. And I was like, oh God, like I don't feel very well at all. Kind of semi-recovered from it, still felt very, very sick, and was like, I've done so much training for this. I'd had the dream ultramarathon training block. It had all gone so well. I actually had brought on a coach. For the first time, I've never had a running coach before, and I suppose like Harry still isn't necessarily a running coach as such. He does a lot of hybrid training. But I work with a guy called Harry McInnes who does all my coaching for me, and he's exceptional. I chose him because I really wanted to have fun while I was training. And he just always looked like he was having fun while he was training. And I knew I needed to do more strength work, and I knew I needed to do more like general fitness work. And I really wanted like a really fun training program, which Harry was able to do. And he's actually racing this race that I'm doing in Tunisia, so that's going to be really good fun. So had a dream ultramarathon run-in, was running the best I'd ever run, had a bit of an Achilles niggle about 5-6 weeks out, and I was like, oh, this is so annoying. Like it was so unnecessary. Haven't had Achilles problems for years, and then all of a sudden they flare up. So that was a bit frustrating, but managed to get that sorted out with the help of my physios, who are great. I say my physios like I have this massive team behind me. Like there's a physio that I go to who's wonderful, who's very helpful, very knowledgeable. Got me back up to speed pretty damn quickly, and then got taken out with this illness, so decided to try and race anyway. And for anyone who is familiar with the GB Ultra's Snowdon 100-mile race, it's very similar to the UTMB race in that the first 50k you do Trifan. I'm going to butcher the pronunciations of these mountains because people are always like, oh, it's not Trifan, or it's not Trifan. But so you do Trifan, and we actually ended up having to do the lower level route because it was so windy. So you go around Trifan, then you go up Snowdon. So you go up Pig Track and down Miners Track. And I actually did reasonably well up there. I kind of got up and down in about 45 minutes. And I don't really remember it that much. It felt like it took about 5 minutes, but it was way longer than that. So then you go up Snowdon, and then you come back over the Glidders. And if you've ever been over the Glidders, you will know that it's either rocks, wet rocks, or bog. Like, there is nothing in between. There's no runnable surfaces. It's horrendous. It's the worst terrain I've ever run on, to the point where I actually, wasn't really enjoying it. And I started feeling queasy over... I set off running at the start, and I was like, my legs don't feel great. I just generally don't feel particularly good. And it usually takes me 45 minutes, an hour to settle into a run, and it takes me usually about 20k to settle into an ultra, because you have that, race anxiety, or I do anyway. So it does take me a while to settle in and find my groove, and I never settled in, never really settled into it. And maybe if I'd been able to keep going after the Glidders, I would have been able to settle in, because I was nervous about doing those 3 big mountains in the space of the first 50k. It's probably the hardest thing I've ever done physically. I really pushed my body, not in a way that I was completely wiping it out, but I pushed it to the limits of ultra pacing. So something that I could sustain, but I was working for it. So started going around Trofan and started feeling queasy, and I was like, I don't feel great. Went up Snowdon, and I don't actually remember doing most of it. I feel like I've either dissociated from it or was hallucinating a little bit. Was coming down Snowdon and was just losing my footing, was really struggling, and my legs felt like lead. It was really hard. I was slipping all over the place on stuff that I shouldn't have been slipping on. And my other half actually has a video that he sent me of me running on probably the flattest bit of the whole race, and I fell over twice in the space of about 45 seconds. There was some steppy bits that we kind of had to go down, and it was paving slabs, and I managed to fall over twice on those paving slabs. And I look back and I was like, I really wasn't okay. There was a lot of tears in that first coming down Snowdon. Coming down Snowdon, I was a bit I don't know if I'm going to be able to do this, because we're not even 50k in yet, and I've got another 100 to go after I hit the 50k mark, because this is a 100-mile race. This is a long way. And then up over the Glidders, I kept having to stop. I kept going dizzy, when you get tunnel vision and your vision starts coming in from the sides and going black. I was getting that. I was trying to hammer as much food and as much water and as many electrolytes as possible to try and, because I was like, what if I've just burnt through all my reserves and nothing was working and I was struggling to keep food down. And when all the food I was eating was starting to come back up, that was the point where I was like, I think I might actually have to call it. Got to the top of the Glidders. Oh, I'm getting like emotional talking about it, because it was a really hard decision to have to make. And by the time it took me 2 hours to get down Devil's Kitchen, which, if you've ever done Devil's Kitchen in Snowdonia, it is very steep, very slippy, difficult to get down, like the rest of Snowdonia, just completely unrunnable territory. It took me 2 hours to do 2 kilometres, and at that point I knew I was fucked. Like, I was like, I don't think I'm keeping going. Kept having to stop and sit down because I was like starting to go black and dizzy, and then got to the checkpoint and just like burst into tears, and they were like, are you okay? And I was like, I think I'm done. My other half, who was in Snowdonia, like, the signal there is horrible, so I was struggling to get in touch with him, and I was like, I can't call Alex to come and pick me up. And I think you were a bit irrational anyway. I'd been running for 11 hours at this point, so I'd got a decent chunk of, I'd got pretty much all the elevation out the way. I just knew that it was going to be a getting mountain rescued from the side of a trail in Snowdonia at 3 a.m. if I tried to carry on. I knew it wasn't sensible. And I think there is a point where you have to make that call. Like, ultra runners are insane. We have something wrong with us. We have a screw loose. Most of us have some kind of trauma which means that we can keep pushing through all this horrendous stuff. But at some point you have to know when it's dangerous. And that felt dangerous. And it actually turned out that it would probably have been dangerous for me to keep going because I had a kidney infection. And I don't know if you've ever had a kidney infection. It's one of the most horrible things ever. And I had one in 2019, ended up in hospital in septic shock, and it nearly killed me. So actually, yeah, I ended up going to the doctors the next day, and I was like, I feel so unwell, but like not normal. I've just run an ultra unwell, like poorly unwell. And they sent me straight off to, and I was like, my back hurts. And I was like, I just have a feeling, because I'd had a bit of a urinary tract infection in that time when I hadn't been feeling very well. And I was like, I just have a feeling it's like migrated up to my kidney again. I've had this before. I kind of know what it feels like. So they gave me they sent me straight for some blood work, and they were like, yeah, wait here. Gave me a whacking big dose of IV antibiotics, and then put me on oral antibiotics and sent me home with them. And spent the next week or two feeling absolutely horrendous. But it turns out that was a really good call to make, because if not, that could have been me. Like, kidney infections and infections in general can go wrong really, really quickly, which is what happened to me in 2019, is that I was at a work event and I didn't dare tell anybody that I didn't feel well, despite the fact that, like, I was going dizzy, my back was hurting, I felt like I was in agony, I was like hot and cold, sweating, like shaking. Didn't dare tell anybody that I didn't feel well, and then nearly died as a result of it. And it's a really, really good job that my ex had been with me at the time, because I was not in a good state when I eventually got to hospital, and ended up like unconscious on the floor of Leicester A&E, which is not the place you want to be. But it's just a very, very good job that I decided to stop, because that could have been my last ultramarathon, and I'm glad that it wasn't. So yeah, I'm still here, and now I'm running another one.
People don't realize DNFs are very hard to make that call. You know, when you say, okay, this is it, and we don't, like, I don't think I can continue, then making that decision itself is very, very tough, because I don't think you realize that we are so stubborn, right? It's like, and we want to go on. So I think that is if we have to come to that decision, then I think that must mean it's really bad. So yeah, I'm glad nothing happened to you. So hopefully, hopefully it will not flare back again next time when you do it.
Yeah, I hope not. But I have a couple of regulars. So I own a coffee shop and bakery now, and I have a regular who works for Mountain Rescue, and what was going through my mind was like, what if Jay had to come and rescue me on the and what would he say? He'd call me a fucking idiot, and if like, what are you doing? And obviously he doesn't work for Snowdonia, he works for like Upper Wharfdale. But what was going through my mind was like, oh God, if it was him that had to come rescue me because I'd been an idiot and I'd tried to keep running even though I knew I didn't feel well. But yeah, sometimes you just have to make the call for your own either physical or mental well-being. And it's a really difficult call to make. And I think you learn the difference between, I'm actually just wussing out of something and I could have kept going, versus like that it was the right decision, and it's never felt like the wrong decision to have stopped. And I knew that I really wasn't enjoying the race because I felt so bad, and B, like I don't think it would have been safe for me to try and finish. So I'm okay with the fact that that was a DNF. I think if it had just been a DNF because I was being a bit of a wuss and was like, oh, it hurts. It's like, yeah, it's meant to hurt. It's an ultramarathon. Like, it's going to hurt. And you have to dig in and enjoy that pain cave. And I quite like the pain cave. I quite like those moments when it starts getting really tough. And yeah, it's tough. But I knew that because I wasn't able to kind of sit in the pain cave and like marinate in it, that it just wasn't the right decision for me to keep going.
That makes total sense. I mean, I would agree that was the right call to do. And like I said, you are the person who knows what happened and then all that thing that you were going through. So I think you are only the right person to make that call.
Yeah.
And when we make that decisions, right, leading after the race is not so fun because we are so critical of ourselves, right? So because DNF is not fun, and you keep thinking about it. Oh, what if I could have just walked a little bit more, or what if I kept just going? So
Yeah.
how did you came over these negative thoughts that usually happens right after the DNF?
I think, do you know what? I don't think I did. I think everyone wants to believe that they're or they have the capacity to be level-headed and moral and like, oh no, I am able to forgive myself and I'm able to move on with it, and I'm okay with these kind of things. And I think it's all right to admit that like I didn't, not that I didn't handle it well, but it's okay to admit that I was really critical of myself. I was really hard on myself, and I did exactly what you just said of like, what if I just walked it a bit more? What if I just hiked it to 50 miles and then had seen what happened? And I think there's all these what ifs going around in your head, and actually having a strong support network around me was really vital in that. So Harry, my coach, was like, hey, it's okay, like it's fine. And it's one of the things that I've loved about being coached, because I never thought I'd necessarily enjoy being coached again, because I grew up in quite hardcore gymnastics and diving. So I spent a lot of my childhood being coached, and it was like quite serious, and it's just like, it's a lot. And I never thought I wanted to be coached again. Have absolutely loved working with Harry because of the support, the compassion, like he's had his own challenges with things like mental health and fitness and all those kind of challenges. So he's very compassionate towards illness and injury and just like the days when you just can't do it. As opposed to some coaches that I like have known of or worked with in the past who are like, just do it anyway. It's like sometimes it's not a case of just doing it anyway. So having people in my corner has been so important to remind you when you can't remind yourself. Like, you sort of have to outsource that compassion sometimes, and you have to get people to tell you it enough that you believe it, because you can't always tell yourself. So having that support network is so important. And even like my dad was, my whole family is very competitive. I've got 3 sisters. We all like winning things. My little sisters, well, all 3 of them, used to swim. They now do CrossFit. Like, my sisters just came second or third, I can't remember. They did very, very well at Turf Games, which is a big CrossFit competition that was held in Manchester. And they were like, next year you've got to do it. So because there's 4 of us, that's a Turf Games team. They were like, next year all 4 of us can do it, and then we can win it. And we're a bit like, yeah, we won't go too hard on this workout. And it's like, run faster. So all of my sisters are super competitive, and even they were like, you made a good decision. So I think when the people around you whose opinions you trust are endorsing what you've done and are going like, no, you did great and you made a good call, and like, we're super proud of you, it makes it easier to then go, oh, okay, like I made a good call. People are proud of me. Like, nobody's disappointed in the fact that I didn't finish this arbitrary goal that I set for myself, which nobody else objectively cares about because it's just a running race. And I have to remind myself of that. I'm like, I'm just running. Like, I'm running a really long way because I'm a fucking idiot. That you have to keep reminding yourself of that. And it's okay to be really disappointed with it because it is disappointing. And it's okay to have an appropriate emotional reaction to the situation. but it's not okay to keep beating yourself up about it. And this is something that I've learned through my own struggles with my mental health, is that you have these feelings and they're there, and a lot of the time they are completely valid and they deserve to be there, and you can acknowledge that they're there, and you can work with them, and you can work alongside them, and you can let yourself feel all of these feelings that you totally deserve to feel. But ruminating on it and letting it ruin the rest of your, not necessarily the rest of your life, but like letting it ruin the next year for you because you DNF'd a stupid race, just isn't smart, and it doesn't make anything better. So you have to just keep doing things that make life better, instead of marinating in the things that you're like, oh, but I didn't finish this race. It doesn't matter. Like, move on. There is another one. I can go back and enter that race and do it again. And honestly, at the moment, I don't have much of an urge to do that. It's not massively high on my priority list to go back and do that race again. And maybe in a few years, once the dust settled a bit and I've got a bit more experience under my belt, and I've maybe done like other 100 milers or other 100Ks, and I decide that that's a distance that I want to have a go at again. But like I've come to this conclusion that like I'm okay with it, and I'll let myself be disappointed, and now I'm fine. So I think you have to, the more you try and squash those feelings down, the worse they get. And you have to sometimes just be like, I'm really disappointed, I'm really upset, I'm really annoyed, and then you have to let it go, and it's okay.
Accepting and coming into terms, and you just have to be okay with it is what it is, you know. Some race we do well, some race it doesn't go well, but at the end of the day, it is just a race, and there will be other opportunities in the future where you can go do similar distances.
Yeah.
You can have like a best training, but like you said, like if you're sick, there is nothing else you can do, you know. Like
Yeah.
you cannot just say, oh, I could have done this, that. Yeah, so I also feel the same way. So I'm just right now, it is what it is. So I have other races coming up, so I'm just gonna keep working and trying to make it more fun.
Yeah, it's a big goal of ultramarathon training for me, and it's something that I said to Harry right at the start, was that I really want to do well, but my main goal is to have fun. Like I love running, I love ultra running, and if I get to the point where I'm like not enjoying it, I'm doing something wrong, because I love it so much.
It's definitely, I think that should be the end goal for everybody who's doing the ultramarathon, because if you don't love it, because it's not going to be fun and enjoyable, because running 24 hours is not fun.
Yeah, and sometimes I have to force myself to enjoy it. Like, I'm that maniac on the course where I'm like, I'm having such a good time, and sometimes I have to like make myself believe that I'm having a really, really good time, even when everything hurts. Like, I remember running into, maybe it was checkpoint 3 on the Brecon Beacons, and it had been a slog to get there. It was really hard, and I think we were like 37, 40k in, something like that, and came down this hill. And I don't know if it was the race director, I can't remember, or one of the volunteers was like, how are we doing? And I was like, I'm hurting, but I'm loving it. And he was like, okay, you keep going. And you just, yeah, sometimes you have to convince yourself that you're having a really, really good time. And then you have to convince yourself in those moments when you're having a bad time. And that's the times when I actually do start really, really enjoying it, is when I'm like, I'm having a great time, I'm doing this because I love it, and everything in my body hurts. But yeah, sometimes you do just have to fake it a little bit till you make it. And then eventually you do actually start just having a good time. And like everything kind of clicks into place. And there was this moment from Brecon where I came over the Carmarthen Fans, which is the west side of the Brecon Beacon. So it's like proper far into the beacons, very quiet, much quieter than the bit that everybody knows, which is like Penavon and that kind of area. And there's this ridge line that goes around this Llyn, which is Big Lake, and it's Llyn of Anfach and Llyn of Anfar, which are these two lakes. Big ridge line that comes around them. And I was coming over it at sunset. And so I lost my mum in 2022, at the back end of 2022. And oh God, I'm going to start like going. And there was this moment where like the sun was setting, and it just felt like she was there. And like I burst into tears, and then stubbed my toe on a rock, and I was like, like having stubbed my toe on a rock, and I think that was the beginning of the end for one of my toenails. So lost a toenail in that moment because I fell over a rock because I was crying. But it was just such a magical experience, and everybody has these in the moments where they're ultra running, where everything just like falls into place and you start having the most magical time. And if you don't, I think you're running ultras wrong. And I just remember looking up, and I've got the picture of it, and there's a photographer at the top, and he was like, you'd have to pretend to smile. And I was like, I'm not pretending. This is everything that I want ultra running to be, and this is the entire reason why I run ultra marathons, is for the moments like this. And that is etched into my brain forever. I'll never forget what that feeling felt like. So yeah, I can't remember what the question was, but I hope that answered it. Oh gosh, I promise I won't cry on this, but ultra running is emotional.
It is emotional. I mean, I cried when I was in 55 kilometer when I saw the mark that says 55 kilometer, and then I know I was recording the video, and then I can see myself choking up because being this fat kid, being this fat adult all my life, I've always been bigger, and then having come all this way, and I was able to run 55 kilometers, and then I was just 1 kilometer away from finishing, and that felt so nice and so proud. Yeah, I was so proud of myself that I was able to do this, and I think it is completely normal for us to be in this phase where we are just over the moon with happiness or with sadness too, because it can go both ways, because there are so many things that will come during ultras, and you will remember so many things. You were talking about your mom. Yeah, so there are so many beautiful moments, and it's just awesome. I think that those feelings are all awesome when it happens at that moment, when we are feeling it, because and it just comes, there is nothing, you are not planning about it, or there's nothing happening. It just happens when you're at that moment, and you just feel like doing it. So those moments are magical, like you said.
Yeah, it just, sometimes the feelings are happy or sad. There's just so many feelings, and they all just I think it's almost like when you're that tired and that depleted and that run down, all of your defenses are kind of lowered. So if anything's going to come up to the surface, it's coming up now, and it just hits you in a massive wave of emotion. I think having had my struggles with my emotional well-being and my mental health, sometimes a lot of the things that I don't realise that I've been kind of hiding away all just come to the surface. And I cry multiple times per ultramarathon, and people are like, if you're crying, why are you doing it? And I'm like, because it makes me cry. And there was a moment from Brecon where again, it must have been super early in the morning. It was probably about 2, maybe it wasn't even that, maybe it was 1 a.m. and we were running through this kind of grassland. And if you've ever been in the Brecon Beacons, you'll know that they have a lot of these things called baby heads, which are just these big tufty bits of grass and mud, perfect for breaking your ankles on in the dark. So, and I just was running and then just sort of fell down this hole that I hadn't seen because the grass was mid-calf height, and you can't see where you're putting your feet, trying to navigate at the same time, which is really difficult. And you've got this tiny watch screen, it's pitch black, you got your head torch on. Luckily, it was really dewy, and the people that had run before me had kind of tracked this mark through the dewy grass, so you could kind of see where you were going-ish, but fell down this hole and was just lying on the floor in just sobbing. And I was like, you've got a minute to cry, and then you've got to keep going again, and just absolutely sobbed my heart out for a minute. And it was like, right, off we go, and carried on running. And you have these moments, and it's the moments that nobody else sees in ultramarathons, and I think it's why they're so special, is because you are I was on my own. I was completely on my own for that. But it's what makes these races so special, is that it's not necessarily about the distance. It's what you face while you're out there, and what you face while you're out there is yourself. It's not necessarily sometimes it's the elements, and sometimes it's the terrain, but a lot of the time it's just yourself that you're facing. And I think it's one of the reasons why it's helped me so much from a therapeutic point of view, is that it makes you confront all these feelings, that you have a lot of time to think when you've got 18 hours of running to do.
It is also a moment that we found out what we are made of. Which one am I? It's about when that happens, which one am I? Am I going to be the one that's going to be fighting and going and finishing the ultras, or am I going to be the one that is not going to do it? And even in life too, right? When we face certain situations, am I going to be the one that's gonna go and finish it and like finish strong, or am I just gonna like quietly just go away and not do what I want to do or whatever I wanted to do. So I think ultra
Yeah.
marathon is such an amazing thing that we put ourselves to, because it's hard, it is tough, and it will show our true identity. I think that's what I believe in, because we're crazy, like you said, because
We are.
we have to be crazy enough to go and do like run for like 24 hours. And if you do the long distance like multi-day events, like right now as we're talking, Megan Eckert and Harvey Lewis and Phil Gore, they are going and doing this insane amount at 400. I think he was 330 miles last time I checked. So they are doing this insane amount of backyard ultras and running. And
Oh
why,
God.
right? Yeah. So it's amazing, like what we make ourselves to go those things. And I love it that we are pushing every bit of our depth and see that how far we can reach.
Yeah, exactly. And again, those are people that probably would never have thought, oh yeah, I'll be able to run 400 miles in a backyard ultra. But here they are running 400 miles in a backyard ultra marathon.
Yeah. They're not done yet. So I think some records will be broken.
Yeah, I think they've already broken all the records. I think now they're just seeing how much they're going to break them by.
And now going back to that, you're in Tunisia, right? So we're just gonna wrap it up quickly. You're in
Yeah.
Tunisia. You are there for this ultra for charity. So
Yes.
from all these races that we have done so far are hilly and muds and wet and soggy. And now you are here in Tunisia. That is a totally different terrain that you've been running your entire life. So how are you
Yeah.
feeling?
I'm a bit scared for it, and people are like, oh, but yeah, it's so much flatter than what you've done before, and I'm like, yeah, exactly. That's why I'm a bit scared for it, because I'm used to, if you hike yourself up a mountain, you get to run down the other side of it, and it's downhill. But now I've got no downhills to look forward to.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's ultra for charity. Sorry, you've got some there's some variety of construction work going on in the background. Sorry if it's a bit noisy. This is the inaugural Ultra for Charity Tunisia 100-kilometre race, and it's a 2-day race, so 50 kilometres, and then we're camping overnight, and then we've got another 50 kilometres the next day. And it's in Toza. I think I'm going to butcher the pronunciation of that. So it's where they filmed Star Wars, where they've got like the big sand huts. Like that's kind of the area where it is. I have no idea what to expect. And honestly, ignorance is bliss at this point. I'm leaning into the fact that I'm like just going to turn up and see what happens. Don't know what's going to happen. Don't know what's going to be like. The weather forecast is saying about 30, 31, 32 degrees in the heat of the day. So we'll see how that goes, because we're starting at like 7 in the morning. So it should be cooler and then ramp up to hot. And I've run in hot conditions before. Like when I raced Brecon, it got pretty toasty, to the point of like I think I ran in a sports bra and shorts for pretty much most of it. So I'm used to running when it's warm, even through the night because it was that warm. But yeah, this is a relatively shorter ultramarathon than I'm used to doing. I've never run anything. I've never raced anything shorter than 100k before, and significantly flatter on sand. And I just don't know what's going to happen. I don't know what it's going to be like. I'm really looking forward to it. I think it's going to be a lot of fun.
I think the problem would be if you're running in sand, then the traction, it takes more effort to run. So
Yeah, I just don't know what to expect. I've got my poles, I've got my trail shoes, I've got my gaiters. I actually messaged, are you familiar with the Ultra X Jordan ultramarathon? So there's a multi-day ultramarathon that goes through Jordan. And I actually messaged Hugo Fry, who won that recently. Like, so gaiters, talk to me. What are we doing? What are we doing with these? Because a lot of people are like, oh yes, you've got to get them sewn on, and it costs you about £100, and that ruins your running shoes forever because you have to sew these things that keep sand out your shoes on your shoes. And I messaged Hugo Fry and I was like, you look like you were just wearing like ones that you got off the internet. And he was like, yeah, I got these ones off Amazon. So I am using like Amazon sand gaiters, putting them round my trail shoes, and we're just going to see what happens. And I think you can only be so prepared for ultramarathons. At some point you just have to rock up and run it and just see what goes on. And like at the end of the day, it's quote unquote only 50k. I'll never be more than about 5k from a checkpoint in any direction. It's waymarked as the course, so I don't have to navigate it, which is quite nice, which makes a bit of a difference, because that's usually the thing that I'm most worried about, is having to navigate. And yeah, we're just going to see what happens. Regardless, we've raised so much money for charity, because it is a charity ultramarathon. We've raised loads of money for charity as a team, and this race is all going to veteran charities, so it's going to fantastic causes. And as obviously I don't have war PTSD, but I do suffer from post-traumatic stress disorder, which is helped by running ultras. I understand what PTSD feels like. So being able to do something that contributes to charities that help people with PTSD, even if it's a different genre of PTSD to mine, it means a lot. So regardless of that, I feel like I've already won. Like, I'm going into this really relaxed and ready to have a really, really good time. Whereas I went into Snowdon with it in the back of my mind that I wanted to have a crack at the course record. And I knew I was fit enough to, in terms of... So the course record for Snowdon at the time was like 30 hours and 40 minutes. Now, it turned out that a professional ultramarathon runner rocked up and like smashed the course record. But I wanted to have like a good stab at it. You can never control who else turns up. You can only control your own effort. Whereas this, I'm going in with no expectations. Like, I've got high expectations of myself, but I'm not going in with this idea of like, I want to get X time or I want to do this, because it's so different to anything that I've ever run before. I'm gonna go and just keep moving. Like, just keep moving. I've got my poles with me to see if that makes any difference. I've got my trail shoes already. I've got my sunglasses. I've got my sun cream, and I'm ready to go.
That's the goal, I think. If you just go and see what it is and just try to enjoy and make best use of the situation and terrain and whatever comes. So you just right there and then you figure it out, and I think that would be a great experience, instead of just planning before it and I'm gonna break this thing. Then you're just gonna put yourself into more pressure, and then you're gonna be end up disappointment, because if you don't get that goal, then you're gonna be like, oh god, it didn't happen.
Yeah, and I went into Beacon's Way last year with this idea in my mind that I could have a stab at the course record, and I broke it. But it felt like a lot of pressure, and I spent a lot of time being like, oh, I can't let anyone catch me. Oh no, I've got to keep going. Oh, I've got to keep running. Oh, I've got to keep going. Whereas this, I'm just going to lean into it, and whatever happens, happens. We'll see.
I think sometimes we forget that we do this for fun, and it's a privilege to run. So I think it's always good to just remind ourselves that this is our fun.
Yeah. It will be fun. I will make myself have fun.
We'll see. I'll keep an eye on what happens to that ultra. So
yeah, I'll keep
few things left. Yeah, thank you. So few things left before we hang up. So remember your first ultra in 2021. You had your ankle broken up and tissues damaged. So if you could go back and give one advice to that Charlotte, what would you tell her?
Oh, pre-race, or like at the point where I fell down a hole?
Pre-race.
Pre-race. I think it would be just go and have a really, really good time, and that this is going to be the gateway to so much more. Like, this isn't the last ultra you're ever going to do, because I think you have in your mind that it's like, oh yeah, I'll tick it off, I'll get the t-shirt, and then I might be done. But I think if I'd known that this was just going to be the gateway to this like magical world of ultra running, I'd have maybe not enjoyed it a bit more, because I absolutely loved it, but I'd have taken a bit of the pressure off myself, because I'd have known there would be so much more to come.
Awesome. That is true. And this, like when we were talking about this thing came up, so I'm gonna ask you that. I wanted to ask you at that moment, but then it slipped away. So we were talking about when, like earlier on, and like doing this running and how we all enjoy it and for different reasons and stuff like that. So for your case, why do you run?
Oh, it quietens the demons in my mind. Maybe it exercises them enough, and not like exorcise like a religious ceremony, but like keeps them well walked, that they stay at bay for a little bit. It gives me a lot of thinking time as well. I'm so busy. Like, I run my own business. I've been self-employed since I was 24. and my business has expanded exponentially. The nature of it isn't the same as when I started when I was 24. Like I opened a bakery and coffee shop in 2023. So we've been going for 2.5 years now. And the nature of my business has changed so much. It's got so much busier. We expanded this year. Like, I very rarely have more than like 5 consecutive minutes to myself during the course of the day. There's so much stuff that needs my attention. There's so much stuff I have to stay on top of. And running is, like, every business owner will know that it never stops. It never, ever stops. And just as you think you've got something, like you've got everything kind of squared away, like environmental health turns up, or your oven breaks, or something breaks, or your bin company decides to not collect your bins, and now you need to like figure all that out, and everyone goes, what do you think we should do? And I'm like, I don't know, we need to ask an adult. So I very rarely get more than, then you realise that you are the adult and you go, oh no. So I rarely get like more than 5 consecutive minutes to myself in my own head without having 15 problems to solve. And running is the time when all that melts away for me. It's when I get it. I get my outdoor time. I get to spend time with my dog. Like, I love taking my dog running. We go out onto the moors. It just, everything quietens down, and everything just feels like nothing else matters. And nothing else does matter in that moment. And it's just a joy. Like, I get to run in some beautiful places. I'm so lucky with where I live. And it's a time for me to really just like switch everything off. Like, switch that logic, work, business brain off.
I think that's how we are so busy with our life that I think running for me is also because I do so many things, and sometimes it's so hard to turn off the brain. Or today while I was running, I was keep thinking of something else, and I was like, or yesterday too, and I reminded myself that I want to be here. I want to be present. I'm running in this trail, so I just want to enjoy this. I don't want to think about anything else. And I just have to bring myself back to this feeling where I am not thinking about the 1,000 problems like I have in my day, or I have to do things, I have to do this. So just I want to be in this present, and that's what I've been doing now. So if my mind diverts, then I just want to like bring it back and say, okay, this is my time. This is me. I want to be here right now. But I was running track today, so I was like, I'm gonna be here in this track and just try to push myself and not think about anything else, because that is not the priority. My mental health is. So I totally get what you're saying.
Yeah, it's the bit of time you have that is completely yours.
Okay, so the next section is called Rapid Fire. I'm just gonna ask you a bunch of random questions, then you're gonna give me whatever things comes to your head.
Okay, go for it.
Trail or road?
Trail.
Pretty obvious. Yeah. Favorite pre-race breakfast?
Bagel, peanut butter, jam, banana.
Yes, that's good. Okay. Dream race anywhere in the world?
Dream race anywhere in the world. Oh, that's a good one. So this race company is running essentially the same race next year in Albania in the mountains, and I would really like to do it, and I'm really excited about the prospect of doing it. I love a mountain race. So maybe that one, I think, is probably the next one that's on like the dream race list.
Stronger mind or stronger legs?
Stronger. Oh. Which would I like? I'd probably like stronger legs. I feel like my mind has done a lot of work. The legs could always use some bonus strength.
Post-race indulgence?
So after Brecon, I was staying with some friends who live in South Wales, and we had a barbecue, and it was perfect. After Snowdonia, the only thing I wanted was fried chicken, so I had KFC on the way home. And actually, thinking about it, after Race to the Stones, they put food on for when you finished, and I had like fried like chicken fingers type things, and it's the best thing I've ever eaten in my entire life. And yeah, salty, not sweet, because I tend to run on gels and liquids and stuff like that. Like, I'm very much not a solid food kind of runner, and maybe that'll change as I get more into like doing 100 milers and stuff like that. But I run on like sweet stuff generally, just because it's easy to digest, easy to get down, doesn't upset my stomach, don't want another having to nearly have a wild poo in the middle of a golf course kind of situation. So yeah, fried chicken. One thing that I will say is that like I have to eat after I've finished, because after the Brecon Beacons, like it's so important for me to get some like salty carbohydratey food down me. Otherwise, after Brecon Beacons, probably about like 45 minutes after I've finished, I had essentially like a massive hypo, which is where your blood sugar, because obviously your body keeps burning calories after you've finished, and me and my slightly delusional had just run for 18-hour state was like, I'm fine, I'm not even hungry. Ended up lying on the side of the road on a grass verge, feeling like I was about to throw up and die, all at the same time, eating, I think I ate 1,000 calories worth of flapjack just to try and like revive myself. And then 10 minutes later, I was like, okay, I'm fine. So I do really need the post-race feed and the post-race indulgence to make sure that I don't actually die after I finish racing, because I'm really bad at being like, oh no, I'm not even hungry, and then nearly, meeting my end.
That's good. I would eat the chicken. I think that sounds good. Salty
Fried
chicken
chicken.
is, yeah.
Great.
Yeah. One word that describes you as a runner.
Stubborn.
What does pushing horizon means to you?
It means finding incredible new places to run, all about a nice view. Like, if a run's got a nice view on there, doesn't matter how hard it is to get to the top. So, yeah, it's pushing for the next incredible running location, view, sunset, whatever it is.
This is the final question I ask everybody. I would like you to please finish this sentence for me. Running has changed my life because.
Running has changed my life because it's saved my life. I genuinely don't know if I'd still be here without it. I think there's been moments in life where I've considered not being here, and it's the thing that just always pulls me back. Obviously there are other things as well, but it keeps me here, and it keeps me good.
I hope that thoughts goes away and you are here. So yeah, and this has been a nice conversation, and it was fun knowing all about your races and your broken, kind of a semi-broken legs and all those fun kind of stuff. So yeah, thank you for your time, and I really appreciate the conversation.
No, thank you very much. This was a lot of fun.
Yes, yeah, and good luck with the race, and I'll keep an eye on, and please send me the link, and I'll keep an watch on how you do it.
I will do. Right, thank you very much, and I will catch you again soon. Bye.
Okay, yeah. Okay, bye. Hey everyone, thank you for making it to the end of the podcast. I hope you really enjoyed this conversation. I'll see you again next time with another guest. Until then, happy running.